Grizzlies may have only won one game in the preseason, which does not even count anyway. Just so people know. A lot of fans act like it does. But it really does not matter. What actually matters here is the way the players and the whole team performed on the floor. Not when the bench unit came in late and closed out a meaningless fourth quarter, but when the real rotation guys played, the starters, and even more important, the new additions on the roster. This is about Marcus Smart, Deandre Ayton, and Jake LaRavia, though mainly Smart and Ayton since they will be carrying larger roles in the actual lineup. And honestly, if you ask me about them, I think they played pretty well. Sure, Smart barely played at all, only 2 games and around 6 quarters total on the floor. And Ayton played more than him, and I thought he looked solid outside of one bad game. Overall, there is a lot to like about their fit and a lot of positive stuff to take away that outweighs the negatives by a long shot. So with that in mind, we are going to break down what they showed, why it matters for the Grizzlies, and why this might honestly be exactly what they needed. So we're going to break it all down here. Starting with Marcus Smart, who again only played 2 preseason games, where he logged around 22 minutes per night while averaging 7 points, 1.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 2 steals, shooting 45% from the floor and 25% from deep. Nothing there is going to blow anyone away. Not the 3-point shooting, not the scoring, not even the assists. The only number that really matters is the steals per game. And honestly, that is the exact thing he was brought in for. They did not get Marcus Smart for flashy offense or highlight scoring or anything like that. They brought him in to clamp people down, change the defensive mindset, and give that edge they were missing. And even in just 2 games, he clearly did that. Whenever Marcus Smart was on the floor, their defense looked sharper, more controlled, and more focused. Most importantly, he helped them fix the biggest weakness they had last year on defense: getting back in transition. Yes, it sounds simple and it sounds basic, but they were flat out awful at doing it last year and honestly for most of the past 5 years too. They were a bottom 5 team in fast break points allowed, giving up almost 17 a night, which ranked near the very worst in the NBA and helped drag their defensive rating down into the bottom 15 overall. That is a huge problem they need to fix and have been trying to focus on fixing, and it is exactly the kind of issue Marcus Smart actually helps with. Not just by defending himself or stopping guys in transition, but by yelling, pushing, and literally forcing his teammates to sprint back and protect the basket. And it showed in their last preseason game. In that final matchup against Sacramento, the Grizzlies only gave up 7 fast break points total. That was the 4th best mark of any team in the final preseason games and less than half of what they normally gave up last year. And to me, it perfectly shows how Marcus Smart improves their mentality, how he anchors things, and how he organizes everybody on defense. He even talked about it after the game, not just hustling back, but actually caring about defense and the energy that he, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Derrick Rose bring together. So here is what he had to say about it.
Marcus, Luka pointed to the physicality being the thing that was lacking the most compared to even what he saw in preseason practices versus on the court in exhibition games. You're known for have that what a part of your skill set, right? How does a team take that on and start making that part of their identity?
Just follow my lead, that's really it. I'm gonna try to set the tone each and every night, and just kind of piggyback off me. It's gonna be nights where I don't have it, and that's part of the game. It's 4 other guys out there with you, and so just really picking up what I'm putting down. Me and Vando, we go out there and Gabe, and we try to bring the tone every time. So if they can just follow us, and which they are, we're, like I said, we're working on getting used to each other and understanding what each other likes to do and what we can do and what we're willing to do. So once we get that under control, I think you'll see a lot more physicality.
Really no other way to say it. Marcus Smart knows exactly why this team brought him here. To play defense and to literally drag everyone else into playing defense too. Not only guys like himself, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Derrick Rose, but the players who do not always lock in on that end or are not great at it every night like Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Santi Aldama, etc. He is out there not just to cover for them, but to push them, call them out, and get their asses running back on defense too. Again, this was something they were terrible at last year, before and after the trade deadline. But with Marcus Smart in the lineup, I honestly think that changes as long as he stays healthy and stays a main part of the rotation, which he will. I think he is going to transform that part of their identity, and Smart is going to be a huge reason why. And beyond just transition defense and being the loud voice that runs their defense, he is going to improve them in another area too: defensive playmaking. That means forcing turnovers, jumping lanes, getting steals, deflections, and just constantly causing chaos. That was something they did not do well last year, and it is something Marcus Smart has been elite at for a long time. Last season, for example, the The Grizzlies ranked 22nd in steals per game, averaging under 8 of them a night. And when you combine that with how awful they were in transition and how many fast break points they gave up, they were never really built to succeed defensively. But now with Marcus Smart, who averaged around 2 steals per game last season and showed it again in preseason, and putting him next to a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., who also racks up steals and deflections per 36 minutes, plus Jake LaRavia giving them about 1.1 steals per game last year, along with a couple other solid defensive playmakers, I think this category is going to take a jump. Mostly because of Smart and how he pressures the ball and forces mistakes. So with that in mind, I think it is basically guaranteed he will be a great addition to their roster. Not only on defense, but in all the areas they were bad at last season. Marcus Smart will flat out make them better. And then when it comes to Deandre Ayton, I think he is also a guaranteed upgrade. He showed it all preseason. And it is not even about stats or flashy box scores. It is about him actually caring, defending, and buying into the role he is supposed to fill and the role they need from him, which already looks promising. Now add in Ja Morant playing with him more consistently. They only played 2 games together in the preseason and for only about 4.5 quarters. That will obviously get better. We are talking about one of the best pick-and-roll bigs in the league in Deandre Ayton paired with one of the best pick-and-roll ball handlers and one of the best lob passers in the NBA, Ja Morant. That is clearly a combo with a huge ceiling, and we already saw flashes of it in the preseason. Of course, the connection was not perfect yet. The timing was off at times, and there was some rust with Ja coming back and trying to get the rhythm right with Ayton. It is not going to be instant. Yes, there were a couple missed lobs, and some fans acted like it was a disaster over a few bad reps in one preseason game, which is just hilarious. Give them time, and it will be deadly. Honestly, I can almost guarantee it. One of the best lob threats and rollers paired with one of the best initiators and creators in pick-and-roll sets is always going to click eventually, and probably sooner rather than later. I mean, looking at Deandre last season in the pick-and-roll, doing a pick-and-roll roughly 28% of the time and scoring about 4.5 points per game from it, with 1.13 points per possession and finishing 58.2% of the time on those plays. That is extremely efficient and put him as one of the top 7 pick-and-roll finishers in the entire league last year. He did all of that even while playing on a Portland team with basically F-level playmaking around him. They were one of, if not the worst, playmaking teams in the NBA. Now put him next to Ja Morant, a guy who himself ran pick-and-roll sets roughly 37% of the time last season, scoring around 10 points per game out of it, drawing fouls about 16% of the time and only turning it over around 11% of the time while running over 10 pick-and-rolls per game with the ball in his hands. That is clearly going to turn into a really dangerous pairing for them. Great passes, great lobs, and a ton of pressure created inside their offense from basic actions. It is funny because a pick and roll is usually simple and predictable, but with those two it creates a whole new layer of offense. Whether it is Ayton catching the ball not even for a lob but at the mid-range and pulling up with it, giving them that in-between game from the free throw line extended or using the lob or the easy dump off near the rim. Ayton even has that soft little floater, and if he is around 5 to 8 feet away, he can hit it comfortably. So there are plenty of options when Ayton gets the ball. And if Ja Morant is the one handling it, then there are even more. He can hit the step-back 3 if the help defender does not hedge. He can explode downhill and finish in traffic, or pull up from mid-range depending on coverage. There are so many ways they can run this action and so many different reads they can make, whether passing, scoring, or just creating pressure. I am genuinely looking forward to watching the chemistry grow between them. And clearly Deandre Ayton is too, because he talked about it after sharing the floor with Ja. Deandre.
Just a first chance in a game playing with Luka. We've been talking about it for a little bit. I know you've had some practices like that. What did you see, not just screen roll action, but kind of the whole thing overall for the two of you?
How our pick and roll is getting our shooters open in the corners. How much more attention Luka draws, just being on the floor with us, and the different schemes teams throw at us when he's on the floor. I say him being communicative as well, telling us what he wants and what he sees out there, and just really, picking up the pace on the offensive end as well, and giving people different good looks. A few times he was just throwing the ball up, kicking heads, whether or not he was getting turnovers, but it was just a good chance to really see how fast he starts the offense.
Like I said, he clearly looks eager and ready to play more with Ja Morant. The opportunities Ja will create for him, and the fact that this is a contract year for Deandre, makes it obvious why he is locked in, and that should help their team a lot, not just on offense but on defense too. Not only playing with Ja, but helping cover for the rest of the roster and becoming their defensive anchor, which Ayton himself has said he wants to become for this team. Ayton looked pretty good defensively all preseason. And no, I am not exaggerating that. Looking at the numbers alone, he averaged around 2 blocks per game in preseason in only about 24 minutes per night, which would actually be a career high for him at the NBA level if he holds it. So if he can carry that into the regular season, it is going to be a major boost to their defense. And even beyond the numbers, just watching him, the energy and effort on defense was probably the most encouraging part. He was sliding his feet, switching, calling things out, communicating on the back line, and for Deandre it looked really solid. No, the team overall was not some elite defense in preseason, and it is hard to judge team defense when lineups keep changing. But Ayton individually looked great, and if he maintains that for most of the 82-game season, it will massively help his reputation and their entire roster. So between both Deandre Ayton and Marcus Smart, there were clear positives from preseason, exactly what the Grizzlies were missing last year. Again, talking about transition defense, defensive, playmaking, defense, and rim protection with Deandre, plus his rebounding, which I have not mentioned much but was really strong all preseason. He averaged 9 rebounds per game in only about 24 minutes, including nearly 2.5 offensive boards, which is another area they were weak in last year. So between Ayton and Smart, they clearly showed they can fix a bunch of the Grizzlies' biggest problems from last season, and you really cannot deny it if you actually watch them play. So with that being said, what do you think? How do you feel about what Deandre Ayton and Marcus Smart showed in preseason, and how it will translate for the Grizzlies during the regular season? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That should pretty much wrap this up. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss future uploads. But as always, thanks for watching and have a great day or night.